All right. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Look at this. All right. Woo. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy Comic-Con Day, FanX in Salt Lake, and happy UCET Day 2. Now, Mike Hakkarainen, the president, couldn't be here today, so he asked me to stand in for him. I know what you're thinking. I'm not Batman. I'm St. Patman. Okay? It's a big day here, and I've already gotten an alert that this picture is inappropriate because it shows superheroes consuming alcohol. Not quite. If you look carefully, he's drinking Brigham's Brew root beer. Yeah, there you go. All right, we got a couple announcements, some thank yous again. That movie you saw yesterday was made on an iPhone, but this one, high quality, this one was made by our friends at UEN. We have to thank Katie Garrett. Yeah, Katie, she directed that movie, and especially our videographer, Landon Weeks, who was behind the camera, and our editor, Nicole Reynolds, for making that movie great. Thank you all, and also for putting closed captioning on it. Yeah. Okay. Wi-Fi. No one's been having trouble with Wi-Fi because it's awesome, but you should be using the UGuest network. And if you do have a problem with Wi-Fi, here's an idea for just a second. Try this out. If you try to do something online and it's not working for a second, put that device away and talk to one of the great people that's here. Maybe make eye contact with them. Try it. It's pretty cool. I know it's a tech conference, but give it a try. And also, if you tweet, use that hashtag UCET17. Now, I know people have been getting a little lost, so again, here's the map. Remember, you're in the student union down here, and you walked past Merrill Engineering from your parking lot, so that's right up there. And in between is the Wonderment bus. Now, this is the best part about it. You can go inside the Wonderment bus. Fun stuff in there. Be sure to check it out. Go inside the Wonderment bus. I am now going to turn the microphone over to a special guest, one of our platinum vendors from Cultivating Learning, and her name is Melinda Pena. Melinda, take it away.
Hi, good morning. My name is Melinda Pena. I'm a reading specialist, and I am the Director of Implementation and Professional Development for Cultivating Learning. Thank you for having me today, and I apologize in advance for not wearing a superhero costume. I feel so inadequate. Let me ask you a question. What would happen if you tried to build a house on a mountain of sand? You know you'd have disastrous results. Well, at Cultivating Learning, we believe in a strong foundation, and our foundation is that of literacy. And we believe that our comprehensive programs for preschool through early elementary school begin, and all programs should begin with phonemic awareness. Our programs systematically move students through phonemic awareness to phonics to fluency and on to reading comprehension. We believe that's how you build a strong reader. Our programs engage the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learner through speech and handwriting recognition. Teachers find our programs to be super effective and very useful because our programs support high-quality instruction and can be used in the general education classroom and also special education classrooms and for English language learners. Our instructional materials and supplemental materials support teachers every step of the way. Our programs provide immediate corrective feedback so that teachers can use data to drive their instruction. Our metrics and analytics are quite useful for teachers, and our supplemental materials help teachers differentiate their instruction in order to meet the academic needs of each individual student. IT departments love us because we're not reliant on streaming, and we use cutting-edge technology. Students love us, most importantly, because the programs are so heavily scaffolded that they experience success within their zone of proximal development. They love our clever animation, our music, and our really engaging activities. Take a moment, please, and learn more about Cultivating Learning.
it seems strange that an eye surgeon should be involved in education,
Pop
early reading education particularly.
and pig go.
But I'm involved in this because I believe, like most Americans, that children should have an opportunity to dream beyond their circumstances.
Pup and pig go to a big pond.
Pup and pig go to a big pond.
Reading is the foundation of all education. It's absolutely necessary that we teach children to read because they learn to read so they can read to learn. What we've tried to create through Covard Learning is a system of programs which teach early reading skills in a way that is comprehensive, evidence-based, and interactive.
I've been using Pups Quest in my classroom for the last 3 years. We were one of the beta testing schools. My kids love it. They love to be the one that's called on when I ask the questions. They love to interact with Professor Pup. They love to trace race. They will chant to try to get each other to win.
Using animation and storylines, handwriting and voice recognition.
Dad, walk.
Technologies that allow the children to actually participate in their education, to hear the sounds of language, write the symbols associated with those sounds, to really learn to read, write, and spell simultaneously. This is a phenomenal opportunity that we have.
I would absolutely recommend Pups Quest to any principal who is looking to support literacy for young children in their schools. It's lively, it's engaging, it pulls in the child through all senses, it eliminates distractions for the child, and the child becomes thoroughly involved in the learning experience. And the child falls in love with Professor Pup.
Great job.
And we're waiting for a sequel.
Our approach to teaching reading is not only extraordinarily efficient, but it's a very simple concept.
Name which one starts with the sound
Map.
terrific.
We teach the children the individual sounds of language. And once you teach a child the sounds of language, and then you teach them the symbols associated with those sounds, the whole process of teaching reading becomes logical and reasonable, and they understand that English isn't just a chaotic mess, but it really is a code, and it can be mastered.
Who can tell me what word this is? Sam.
Map.
Very good. Yes.
I'll be giving a workshop today at 10:15 in Parlor A, and I'd love for you to come out. We're going to talk about phonemic awareness and phonics. We're going to play with the programs. I'd love to get some of your feedback, so I hope you join us. Our booth is located right across from us in the hallway here. My colleagues are there, and we'd love for you to come play with the program and ask us a million questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Covard Learning, for being here and all of your support. Everyone, I want to make sure you know Parlor A is if you go down this hallway and up these steps, it's right up on the next floor. Okay, so be sure to check that out. Sorry about the quick change here. We had a wardrobe malfunction. St. Pat man had to leave, so I'm back. I want to point out thanks to our vendors, but also vendors make our grants happen. Okay, so get out your cameras, take a quick picture of bit.ly/UCET17 grant. That will take you directly to our webpage where you can apply for grants. Please apply by April 12th, 2017. Visit the vendors today and make a wish list, and make sure you attend all 8 sessions of UCET17. And then your grant will be awarded $1,500 if it's approved, but the money needs to be spent through vendors that are here at UCET. So that's why you want to visit the vendors and make a wish list. Now, yesterday I had some problems with my slide transition, remote. So I got a brand new one, and I have to do a different little jig every time I want a new slide. She's back there. Her name's Michelle. Wave. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you for that vest you gave me that I wore yesterday. Oh, hey, that's wrong. You're going to the UCET 2017 schedule. But you can not worry about the website because you're going to go to Crowd Compass. Remember how to get in there? We're going to talk about that in just a minute when we get over our elections. Okay? So, hashtag slide change. There we go. Lunch today will be served in the exact same place at the exact same time, 11:15 to 1, and this time we have pasta, fruit, chips, and drinks. I have not had word yet as to whether or not Cup Bop is here, but I'll try and make it happen. How many people want Cup Bop? There we go. That's a big difference from yesterday, isn't it? Thank you. And thanks to our vendors who supplied our food and our snacks, and our snack break is going to be at 2:15. Make sure you get there early because the food might run out, but it's in all the vendor areas. Look at that. We have a quick video from Tech Hut, our other platinum vendor, that we're going to show. Watch and learn.
We understand the aspects of it from, the student to the director, and that's why I think we're successful, is because we focus in on educational technologies. So every solution that we sell, from content filtering to the way schools manage their devices, is entirely focused around a school environment. Over the last summer, so over the last 60 days, we constructed more than 30 miles of fiber, delivered more than 10,000 devices to 15 different school districts, and we did it all in a short period of time. School districts have been focused more and more on how do they deliver more connectivity to the classroom. Kids are bringing in their own devices. They're trying to establish one-to-ones. How do we manage those? How do we make them work reliably on a wireless network? And so, we focused on catering to those solutions, and we have been very cost-effective at it. The value we bring to schools is experience. We do not lock anyone into a specific technology that's proprietary. We try and leverage standards so that different technologies play well together, and that creates a better ecosystem in the classroom. Our customers are very loyal to us, and so we're loyal to them. And if they know that we're involved with a project, they know that we're going to see it through, and they can trust what we're doing.
Okay, many thanks to Tech Hut, and big round of applause for them. There they are, back there in the back corner. Hi, guys. Wave to Tech Hut. There they are. Without Tech Hut and Cultivating Learning and our other sponsors and vendors, we would not be here, so thank them when you see them. Now, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Miss Sarah Young from the Utah State Board of Education, who is going to give us a state of tech in the state of Utah. Here you go, Sarah.
Thank you so much. My name's Sarah Young. I'm the coordinator for digital teaching and learning, for those of you that I haven't met yet today. I can't tell you how much it means to see every single one of you here in this room. I had the pleasure of joining the State Board of Education and my partner in crime, best expert in the state, Rick Gaisford, in May of last year to kick off the Digital Teaching and Learning Initiative here in the state. We started with a vision. It was a vision about how do we bring educational technology to not just some, but all of our kids across the entire state of Utah. It was an amazing vision. It got some legislative support, and we had an opportunity to start that process in the summer of last year. So how far have we come? Well, I'm pleased to say that at this moment, we have 68 LEAs who are participating in digital teaching and learning. That is because of the leadership that is sitting in this room. How many of you contributed to your digital teaching and learning plan? Would you raise your hand? Folks, these guys deserve a round of applause because they got $12 million out into the community to help our kids. Now, I'm the first to say that when they talk about statewide initiatives for technology, the track record of our nation is not so good. We have a lot of missteps that have happened in other states, and in other counties that have tried initiatives around one-to-one. And you'll hear that a lot from some of our leaders in the state saying, I don't know if this is the direction we should be going. I am here to tell you today, it is the direction we're going. This is where we're headed, bringing educational technology to support our teachers to provide the best instruction that we possibly can to Utah kids. That is the vision of what we're doing in digital teaching and learning. And it is not a one-to-one initiative. It is not about just buying devices. It's about looking at the whole ecosystem that's necessary for educational technology. It is about being able to provide the wireless access points so the devices and the software that you have can be successful. It's about finding softwares and platforms that allow for personalized learning more so than we've ever been able to offer without that technology opportunity to meet the needs of all of our kids at the different levels that they are. And finally, that money is available for professional learning for our teachers. So that is huge in terms of what the investment is and where we're going. So the work has just started, and I have to say that if your LEA has a plan, the baton is now passed to you. Will you do me a favor and stand up if you're a classroom teacher who works with our kids? Folks, these guys deserve the round of applause here today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our teachers who make change. It is our teachers who are the innovators. It is our teachers who create those opportunities for kids. And I'm here to let you know that the work that we do at the state level is to support you. That's why we're here. Every single administrator within the K-12 environment is there to support the work that happens in the classroom. And that's our commitment at the state level, both from Rick and myself to all of you. We are here to find ways to help you be successful. You have a lot of things on your plate, and we are the first to recognize that coming from the state, because a lot of it comes from our office. But ladies and gentlemen, I am here to let you know that you have advocates in that office through Rick and myself in regards to finding opportunities for educational technology. So how do you get involved? Well, we are fortunate enough that we have the digital teaching and learning plans for the 68 LEAs that are participating posted to the website. If you visit www.uen.org/digital-learning, that is where you can find, where is my district plan? Where is my charter school plan? If you go there and you're like, wait a minute, my group isn't participating in digital teaching and learning, not to worry. There's another round of opportunities that'll be launched here in April for the next round of digital teaching and learning plan development. So if you are not participating yet, your opportunity is coming up here shortly. Finally, my last request is this. This room has empty seats. The way we fill those seats is if you bring a friend. I would love to see every single individual here in this room recruit a teacher or an administrator to be a part of UCET. UCET doesn't end at the end of today. They have opportunities throughout the school year. And I'm asking you to go beyond the leadership that you're already showing and giving your time to be here yesterday and today, to go into your communities and recruit a friend. We need this place packed. We need not a single seat to be empty to know that we really have the force necessary to make the changes that we want to see. And we're really hopeful that those changes, as they translate to those student learning outcomes, generate more resources to support you as teachers. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate all the work that you do, especially those of you who are in the classroom helping change the lives of our kids here today. With that, I'm gonna turn it back over to Michael. Thank you so much.
Stay right here for just a second. Thank you to Sarah and Rick for everything you do. You are leading us into tomorrow, and we appreciate all the work you do as well. Thank you. All right. You guys like my socks? When I put on a Star Trek shirt, a little bit of my soul died. So I had to get the Star Wars back on. There we go. Okay, so if you get lost, remember, look for the volunteers in the brown shirts. Thank you, volunteers, for being here. And we're going to talk a little bit about evaluations for all of the presentations that have been done. When you're in Crowd Compass and you're looking at a presentation that you just went to, scroll down just a little bit and you'll see a little click for session evaluation. And then you can go through and just tap real quickly through the interface and evaluate the session that you saw. Okay? It's right in Crowd Compass. It's easy to use. If you need credit, there is a due date. Remember to go to this website. You can go to our conference. You can also find it in the app. But go to bit.ly/UCET17 credit and make sure you complete this before April 28th. You will have to fill out one of those True North Logic and have your Cactus ID. So be ready to do that. If you see a session is full, you'll see this sign. The backpack's full. Don't panic. Go to the playground, find another session, and you'll find something definitely fun to do. Maybe the student lounge, or be sure to stop by our vendors. Okay? How many people liked that presentation during lunch from Travis Allen? Wasn't he exciting? This guy is great. He's here again today. He's not doing the same session. He's going to continue the conversation. If you missed him yesterday, be sure you're there. 11:30 in the theater. More talk about being a lifelong learner. So you can check out Travis. A couple things about activities. As you know, we are doing Twitter prizes. One thing we're giving away is a backpack for the most liked tweet on Twitter. Guess who got the most likes on Twitter? Alice Keeler. Yeah. We're not giving Alice Keeler a backpack. The backpack instead is going to James Bailiff, who had the most likes. Where are you, James? Now, when you come up here, I want you to join the rest of the backpack winners right here in the front row, because we're all going to get our pictures with our keynote, Steph Davis, when she's done, and I'll be introducing her in just a second. Now, I know everybody wants one of these backpacks, so I do have one more to give away. This one is not going to be the most likes. What I want you to do today is you're going to turn off your devices during the keynote. I'll explain that in a second. But afterwards, I want you to tweet what you learned from our keynote. And she herself, Steph Davis, will pick the most meaningful, thoughtful tweet. Not the one with the most likes or the one that's most retweeted, but the one that hits home. That person gets a backpack at the end of the day today. And then there's one more backpack I have to give away. And I'd like to ask one of my favorite coworkers ever in the history of me having a job, Danny Sloan, to come up on stage. Danny has been enviously watching the backpacks being given away and talking about how much you'd like a backpack, and I really want her to have one. So I got this one just for you. It's a hipster color. Okay? But I have to say, the real gift today isn't this backpack to Danny. It's the fact that Danny takes over as your president this summer. And that's the best gift any of you could get. Congratulations to everyone. Now, Danny, stay up here because you're going to talk about...
It's time to talk about elections. So, everyone, get out your devices. Sorry, someone's calling me. Inappropriate time, guys. All right, so get out your devices and go ahead and go into the Crowd Compass app.
I'll answer for you.
Thanks. That's terrifying. Okay, so get out the Crowd Compass app and then go ahead and tap on the morning session. So it'll say morning session Friday. And then when you scroll down, one more. We didn't fix it. It's fine. So go to the morning session, and then if you scroll down, you should see a survey that says Board Elections 2017. Go ahead and tap on that. You'll be voting for president. Your choices are Andrew Clark or Andrew Clark. I think Andrew's going to do a great job. And then you have, I think, 8 board members to choose from for 4 positions. So you'll go ahead and vote for those 4 spots. So please do it now or sometime before 2 o'clock today. And we'll announce the new board members at the closing session tonight, which is when we get prizes as well. So I'm excited to see you all then. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Danny. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I look forward to doing another year of UCET. So, that being said, you've gotten on your devices, you've voted. Now, this is going to be blasphemy at a tech conference, but it's time to unplug. I chose this keynote because she's going to talk about fear and risk. You're going to want to give all of your attention to her while she's up here. Don't worry about tweeting. Don't worry about words with friends. Alec Baldwin will still be there. I love that joke. And don't worry about snapping a lot of pictures for Instagram. Unplug your devices, sit back, relax, listen, watch, and learn. And I'd like to introduce Steph Davis. She tweets at Hi Steph. You'll see that again at the end. Steph Davis is the most accomplished female free soloist in the world and is also one of the world's top wingsuit and base jumpers. She was the first woman to free climb the Salathe wall on El Capitan and the second woman to free climb El Cap in 24 hours. Now, all the Apple Mac users recognize that picture right there, right? Yeah, but can you imagine climbing that in one day? All 3,000 feet of it. Along with being a world famous climber, she's also a base jumper and wingsuit flyer. If you think that's daring, she's also the daughter of an elementary school teacher. Steph has authored 2 books, High Infatuation and Learning to Fly. She also maintains a website that focuses on climbing, base jumping, travel, healthy living, diet. And for those of you who know me very well, I have to give credit to Steph Davis's blog for convincing me to switch to almond milk and using a Soya Joy processor to make it myself. Ladies and gentlemen of UCET, I'm honored to introduce to you Steph Davis.
You need mic? Oh, there we go. Not that mic, this mic. Sorry, you guys, we just lost the tech here, but I'm going to get it back. Wow. It's getting exciting. There we go. No? Yes? We might have some slides. No? Well, thank you all for coming. If this doesn't work, we'll just go climbing or something. We had it for a second. Oh, we're green. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Who's on projector? Anyone? I hope somebody's taking care of the projector because it's not me. I'm just like waiting for someone to fix it. Oh, shoot. It's close. Oh. This is a tech conference, isn't it? I just want you to know that tech is not my specialty, as you may have noticed. Let's try that again. Ooh, this looks promising. I think we got it. Please. No? Yes. Okay. Phew. Got it. Thanks for your patience, guys. We're good. No, we're good. We're good. Anyway, thanks a lot for coming out. Really nice for me to be here today. I live in Moab, Utah. My brother lives here in Salt Lake. As you know, Utah is the greatest place in the world. That's why we all live here. I'm a professional climber and a base jumper, so I climb up things and jump off them.
And of all the styles of climbing, maybe the best way to get to that place is free soloing.
Got no time got no mind.
To be able to free solo something, that is an expression of being so in control that you know you're gonna be able to do it without falling.
Time to sink with.
It's hard to push past that fear. It's something that for me takes a lot of thought, a lot of preparation, and I don't have to be paralyzed by fear. I can just go do it. This wasn't a career I ever expected to be in. Until I was 18, I didn't even know what extreme sports were. The first day I went climbing was my first year of college. I was a freshman at the University of Maryland, and I was just sitting outside the cafeteria one day with my mountain bike, and this guy walked up to me and asked if I wanted to go rock climbing. It was Groundhog Day, but it was very warm, very sunny. The groundhog was definitely seeing his shadow. So I skipped calculus class and went, mainly to find out what rock climbing actually was, and because this guy was also pretty attractive. I fell head over heels in love with rock climbing, which it turns out is where you go and climb up rocks. Who knew? Until that moment, I thought I was going to become a concert pianist. I had been studying music since the age of 3, and I spent most of my childhood and my teenage years sitting on a piano bench in a little practice room, practicing up to 6 hours a day by the time I was in high school. Aside from piano, my main hobby was reading. This may not seem like the ideal background for becoming a professional extreme athlete, but classical music training taught me how to focus and how to make an impossible thing become possible by breaking it into small parts and then working at them relentlessly. So that first day of climbing somewhat exploded life as I knew it. Within a year, I had quit music completely. I changed my major to English, and I signed up for a student exchange program to Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado. Basically to get out west because I assumed there would be more rocks and mountains out west than in Maryland. There were. I got a master's degree at CSU in literature, mountaineering literature. In 1995, I went to law school for a week. And then I dropped out and I moved into my grandma's hand-me-down Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra so I could climb as much as possible. I waited tables to earn money, and then I spent months living out of my car in climbing areas around the US. I eventually started to get some financial support from climbing companies as the outdoor industry grew up. And that allowed me to really move up from a lifestyle perspective to a used Ford Ranger pickup truck with my dog Fletch. One of the main things I hear from people and that I know is we all want to be happy and fulfilled in life. And for many of us, following our dreams means that we have to step off the safe road and take an enormous risk. We've all found ourselves in that moment wondering if we should stay on the safe road or go for our dreams. And most people, especially the people who love you the most, will tell you don't step off the safe road. Fit in, be like everybody around you, stay safe. People will tell you that your dream is impossible or crazy, and it probably is. There aren't any roadmaps. There are endless obstacles. Even now, after 25 years of climbing in the mountains, leaving law school to live in a car was one of the scariest things I've ever done in my life. So in that first decade of climbing, I just said yes to any opportunity that came my way to travel the world and climb big walls and mountains. And I quickly figured out that there was a seemingly endless array of skills to learn. How to buy food for 2 months in the mountains in a market in Islamabad. How to go to the bathroom on the side of a rock. How to scale a mountain with ice axes. And I also discovered that the more I learned, the more I could do. Skills equal opportunity. I went to the Karakoram and climbed Shipton Spire in Pakistan, which is a 4,000-foot granite tower with the summit at 20,000 feet altitude, higher than I had ever been in my life. I spent 3 weeks living on the side of a wall in the Arctic Circle over frozen sea ice and polar bears in Baffin Island. One of the most intense places I've ever spent time, and yet weirdly one of the most peaceful as well. I went back to Pakistan a second time to climb another unnamed spire in the Kandis Valley. And just to get into that valley, we had to make our way through a string of military checkpoints on the line of control between Pakistan and India. So it was quite a big adventure. In that time, I went to Kyrgyzstan, where I climbed several new routes with a team of friends, and then made a rope solo ascent of a 3,000-foot route called 1,000 Years of Christianity in Russia. When you go off on expeditions like these, there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of hard work. And you learn that climbing really is a metaphor for life. You climb these very big mountains by taking many small steps, by simply starting and then continuing until you get there. The place that taught me the most about the importance of persevering was the Patagonian Andes. This is a mountain chain that is on the border of Chile and Argentina, and it separates the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. So storms circle over these oceans, and then they come inland, and they slam into the first landmass they meet, which is the skyline of jagged granite towers jutting straight up out of the glaciers. Even when the skies are pure blue like this, the wind can be raging on top of those peaks, thousands of feet up. And when the skies aren't pure blue, there's snow, ice, and sleet in the mix. These are the stormiest mountains in the world. The wind can reach speeds of up to 60 miles per hour. You can stay down there for 3 months and get 1 day of good weather the whole time. Patagonia is the wildest and most frustrating place I've ever climbed, and I think that's part of the attraction. My first trip to this place, Patagonia, was in 1996, and of course I wanted more than anything to climb Fitzroy, which is the biggest mountain there. It's 6,000 feet of granite, snow, and ice. My partner on that trip, Charlie Fowler, was a very experienced alpinist, and he'd climbed in Patagonia before, but he hadn't yet stood on top of Fitzroy either. But for 2 solid months through December and January, it stormed so much, we could only climb smaller peaks next to Fitzroy. And in the last week of our trip, the weather still wasn't looking great, and the conditions in the mountain actually looked terrible, with snow and ice coating all the rock, of course. But we were running out of time and felt like, hey, this is actually our objective. We have to give one good try. So we started up Fitzroy before dawn. We climbed all day in clouds, and we spent the night in an ice cave that we chipped out with our ice axes. The next morning, we woke up to a couple rays of sun followed by light snow. We had enough food for 1 day of climbing, which was supposed to be today, but we decided we should spend a second night in the ice cave, not eat the food, and hope the third day might be a better day. We woke the third morning to weather that was cloudy, but it was calm, and it was hard to decide whether to go up or to go down. We had 3 energy bars left to climb another 2,000 feet and then descend 6,000 feet off the mountain, so that wasn't really a lot of fuel. Even if we decided to go down immediately, we decided to go up. The clouds came in, the wind started, we were less than 1,000 feet from the summit, and we decided to keep climbing as the storm wound in. At this point, we were fully committed. Naturally, the storm got worse. We had no choice but to retreat and fought our way down through wind and sleet for hours. And we actually almost didn't make it down at all when our ropes blew off the mountain during the descent, but that's another story. Charlie and I failed to reach the summit of Fitzroy, but we succeeded in getting down alive, and I learned some big lessons about risk, commitment, and failure. I learned that although you can't succeed unless you're willing to try really hard, simply trying really hard often isn't enough. I discovered that every failure is actually a chance to learn and to get stronger. And that big goals rarely happen on the first attempt, even though we kind of want them to. Success is something that comes from a lot of work and a lot of failure, often years of it. And if you fail enough, you finally learn strategy. I spent 7 winters in a row in Patagonia, staying 1 to 3 months there every time, living in rock shelters and ice caves, eating oatmeal and dehydrated soup. So the persistence part I had, but strategy was what I had to figure out. The unpredictable weather and the physical effort it takes to get into position, to be in the right place at the right time, are the primary problems in Patagonia. From the small town of UCET17 to your main base camp in the forest is a 3-hour hike. You can hire horses to carry your gear up to this forest and save some time and energy, but beyond that forest, the trails end. From the forest to the high camp that you'll make is another 4 hours across a glacier. From that camp, to get to the bottom of any tower that you actually want to climb, is another strenuous trek across more glaciers and up more snow, and then straight up some more snow, ice, and rock. So if you're in the wrong place when the weather turns, you lose your chance to use that small window of time to climb to a summit because you'll be hours away from even starting to climb your route. You have to be in the right place at the right time with the right gear and in the right condition. So winter after winter, I went back to Patagonia with different partners, failing a lot, yes, and gradually learning how to be in the right place at the right time. And eventually, I did reach the summit of Fitzroy and all 7 of the peaks in the skyline of the Fitzroy Range, becoming the first woman to do so. So during all this, I didn't develop this super specialized finger strength to pull myself up the smallest little rock edges. But I learned something that would eventually take me up some of the most legendary rock faces in the world. I learned how to keep going, no matter what, and I learned the importance of strategy. Strategy has always sounded kind of abstract to me, like chess tournaments or international climate meetings, but it's actually very, very simple. You need to figure out what's the thing making it hard to do what you want to do, and then figure out your way to solve it. That's strategy. El Capitan in Yosemite, California is the largest vertical cliff face in North America. 3,000 feet tall. There's a nice convenient road at the bottom, just out of the frame of this photo. And it has the kind of weather you expect from California. It's also the most famous cliff in America, maybe even the world, for climbers. People spend several days climbing this wall, and usually what people do is climb up their ropes and their equipment in order to ascend the face. This style of climbing is called aid climbing because you're climbing with the aid of the equipment instead of just the rock itself. And it's what happens a lot when the rock is really big and it's really hard to climb it. Last year, El Cap actually made international headlines when 2 climbers free climbed the Dawn Wall, the hardest route up its face, meaning they used only their bodies to climb the rock itself, with the ropes and the equipment there just for safety. But more than 20 years ago, in 1994, this woman, Lynn Hill, became a legend in the climbing world when she became the first person to free climb El Cap in a single day. She had a partner to ascend up her rope behind her, but she did all the climbing herself. 3,000 feet of sheer vertical movement from bottom to top in less than 24 hours without ever falling onto her rope. This was not long after I started climbing, and El Cap free in a day was the most significant thing that had ever happened in the rock climbing world. El Cap free in a day seemed to me like such an unattainable dream, but after my time in Patagonia, I learned that total focus and total commitment can make anything possible. So in 2002, I made the decision to stop going to the mountains, to fight through storms on high peaks and carry backpacks all over the place. And I moved to Yosemite to focus all of my attention on free climbing. And it's funny because there are a lot of really good free climbers in the world. And if you ask most climbers what their biggest dream might be, a lot of them would say it would be to free climb El Cap. And most of the best climbers in the world say their biggest dream would be to free climb El Cap in a day. Yet, only a handful of people have done it. I didn't even start doing sports until I was 18. I've met countless climbers who can do much harder rock climbs than I can do, on small cliffs, on boulders, in the climbing gym. So how on earth did I, of all people, manage to pull off the ultimate climbing dream of freeing El Cap in a day? When you want to do something incredibly difficult and incredibly big, sheer skill and talent isn't going to cut it. You have to identify the obstacles in your way and figure out how to manage them. Strategy. And then you have to plug away through failure, exhaustion, frustration, dejection, doubt, and humiliation until you get there. Perseverance. Basically all the things you learn if you go carry backpacks around glaciers and storms in Patagonia for 7 years. The route I chose to climb on El Cap was called Freerider. And at that time, climbers were so intimidated by even the idea of free climbing El Cap that I actually had the wall all to myself. And I realized right away that free climbing this 3,000-foot wall of sheer granite in one day was going to require highly specific training. And I decided the best way to train for this wall was just to train on the wall itself. So throughout the summer, I spent weeks on the side of El Cap alone. I would hike up to the top and then lower myself down the wall on ropes so I could just dangle around and figure out how to climb the hardest parts of the route. Some days, I would go down 2,000 feet on the wall on these ropes and then climb back out with a self-belay system just for fitness, because to climb something this big, you need to be able to perform at a high level, and you also need to be able to do it while you're really tired. There's another problem with free climbing El Cap. It's really big, and it's mainly south-facing, which means it's in the sun for most of the day. Even in late October, when I wanted to try my climb, it's usually too hot in the sun for really difficult rock climbing because your hands sweat and your feet swell up. I knew that strategy was everything, and I decided to plan my entire ascent around the schedule of starting the hardest part of the climb at sunrise, 2,000 feet up the side of El Cap, because the rock would still be cold. So this meant backing up in time, I would need to climb most of the route in the dark in order to be there at that time. I started climbing at 5 p.m. and climbed through the night with 3 headlamps. At 7 a.m., I was 2,000 feet up the side of El Cap, staring up at the hardest part of the climb, sleep deprived, shivering, from stress and anxiety, probably as much as cold. At this point in the game, if I fell onto my rope even one time, I knew I just wouldn't have the time or the energy to lower back down to a ledge and try that part again. So it was all or nothing. I'd been climbing for 15 hours, and it was getting harder to maintain focus and keep giving my top physical effort for hour after hour. I also knew I wouldn't be able to make an attempt this big again before winter if I failed right now. And then by next spring, I wouldn't be this physically ready, who knows what's going to happen, so this really might be my only chance ever. Anyone here who's a parent of small children knows that when you're really exhausted and sleep deprived, and you're pushing yourself past what you think you can do, it can really affect your emotions. There was a part of me that kind of hoped I would fall into the rope and have to give up, so I could just go to sleep. As I got closer to the top of El Cap, the climbing was getting technically easier, but more strenuous, and I slowed way, way down. It was 22 hours, 2,600 vertical feet into my attempt. I was just 400 feet from the summit, almost there. Each time I finished climbing a section, I would tie the rope off for my belayer to come up the rope, and then just fall asleep until he reached me and woke me up to make me keep climbing. So I reached the summit of El Cap 23 hours after I'd left the ground, becoming the second woman to free climb in a day, almost 10 years after Lynn's achievement. So far, 14 years later, there hasn't been a third. And 2 years after that, I free climbed an even harder route up El Cap, the Salothe Wall, becoming the first woman to do that as well. A lot of people were surprised by these ascents, especially me. I grew up reading books and playing the piano, not from a family of Olympic skiers or gymnastic champions, but it turns out that to a certain extent, if you decide to focus on something completely, you will most likely end up doing it. So what stops us from doing anything we want to do in life? I think the answer is simple, but also very complicated: fear. With climbing, you're dealing with fear all the time, because most people have some natural fear of heights and falling. But then there's the fear of failure, of the possibility of trying really hard at something and just not being able to do it. And that's really scary too. So for a while, my strategy for dealing with the fear of falling was to make falling impossible. Climbing without a rope is called free solo climbing. And if you don't have a rope, you really can't fall. This is something I've always done over the years, mainly because I like the simplicity and the purity of climbing alone. No partner, no rope, no gear, no backpack, just climbing. I had a dream for many years of free soloing a high altitude big wall on the side of Long's Peak, which is a well-known 14er in Rocky Mountain National Park. The east face of Long's Peak is 1,500 feet of vertical granite called the Diamond. It's technical vertical rock climbing in a high altitude alpine environment with the summit at 14,000 feet altitude. I spent the summer of 2007 hiking and free soloing easier routes in the Rocky Mountains to get fit and to prepare. And then I made 4 separate ascents of the Diamond alone, without a rope, without a partner. And I had this idea that by figuring out how to do this incredibly intimidating thing and do it again and again, I might finally be able to learn how to overcome fear completely.
Crimson and clover. Would you come walking over?
The Diamond can be an intimidating place. There's some loose rock. The climbing is pretty steep. It's vertical or overhanging. If you fell off, you'd go down about 1,000 feet. If I think to myself, oh, what about falling? Either I'm going to be distracted or potentially nervous, so I can't do that. The fear is the danger. So, did climbing a 1,500-foot granite wall without a rope make me any less afraid of falling? Well, no. It just made me really, really good at avoiding it. So, skydivers and base jumpers love falling. In fact, it's kind of the whole idea. And that's why I started jumping out of airplanes. I'm sure everyone here has seen YouTube videos of wingsuit flying and wonder what it feels like to fly one. It literally feels like you're flying because you are flying. The wingsuit is basically a nylon superhero suit with wings between your arms and your legs, so it creates more surface area. And the bigger the suit, the more surface area you have. Depending on the size of your suit and how well you fly it, you can stay in the air up to 3 times as long as someone without a suit on. You can fly for a couple of miles sometimes before it's time to pull your parachute and land. I live in Moab, and I spend most of my time on cliffs. So after a few months of skydiving out of airplanes, I learned how to base jump from cliffs. I've been jumping off cliffs for 10 years now. Am I now fearless? Of course not. If I was, there would be a problem. But I have learned that I can reduce fear by building confidence, legitimate confidence, slowly over time through focus, hard work, and persistence. I think a lot of times when we see people doing things that seem incredibly hard or intimidating, what we aren't seeing are the years of training and effort that are behind those things. And sometimes people see those videos on YouTube and they think, oh, you just go out and buy a wingsuit, and then, oh, here you are on top of a mountain, and you just fly off. In fact, wingsuit base jumping is the most extreme form of base jumping, which is itself the most extreme form of parachuting. It takes years of focused training to be able to fly a wingsuit off a mountain, and even more to be able to do it safely and sustainably. And you don't just appear on top of a mountain either. You hike up it usually for 3 or 4 hours, carrying a pretty heavy backpack with your parachute, wingsuit, helmet, water, some food, warm clothes, all the stuff you take into the mountains, knowing that if the conditions aren't right when you get there, or if it starts storming, you will need to descend back down the mountain again. And then when you're all geared up in your squirrel suit, and you're standing at the very edge with a few thousand feet of air in front of you, you really have to remind yourself that you have done this hundreds, maybe thousands of times, and you've trained for it for years, because when you leave the edge, there's no going back. But when you are a human being and you fly off the edge of a cliff, you realize that with discipline and focus, you truly can do anything, no matter how impossible that thing is. Many people, like, for example, my parents, are curious about how one makes a living by climbing up things and jumping off them. I primarily make my living as a sponsored athlete and a brand ambassador. I currently work with 9 companies in the outdoor industry, representing their brands and creating content for social media platforms. I also have my own business, which I started with my late husband, Mario, in Moab to teach base jumping and climbing. I run climbing clinics 4 times a year in Moab. 2 of them are for women only, and 2 are for all climbers. As a grad student at Colorado State University back in 1993, I taught freshman writing for 4 semesters as part of my teaching assistantship. All TAs had to take education classes along with our lit classes. So rather than just being a way to pay for my tuition, getting to be a teaching assistant gave me actually a double education. Here is the most important thing I learned in that time. Writing is really scary for people. I didn't understand that the first semester I taught it because writing was kind of the only thing that didn't scare me. And as a result, I had a very hard time with that class. But once I figured out that writing scares people, my approach to teaching it changed dramatically, and I did a much better job with the next few semesters. That experience helped me very much when teaching climbing and base jumping, which also involve a lot of fear. And learning itself is scary. And as a teacher, you have to understand that or you will fail completely and wonder why. The biggest lesson I learned when I first started running my own climbing events in 2011 is that we all think we like playing more than anything. But in fact, people love learning more than anything. And people also value learning more than they value simply having fun. We don't have a lot of time in my clinics. It's only 2 days, each one. So the first few seasons I started doing them, I figured, people are coming here to Moab to climb and have fun. And so we prioritized climbing as much as possible during the clinic. And then one spring, it rained a lot, and we spent the whole time teaching rope work, knots, and anchor building instead of actually climbing, because what else could we do? And I was really disappointed for that group because they didn't really get to climb at all during the clinic. And then everyone in that clinic went home and sent me emails telling me how glad they were to have learned all these skills and how valuable the experience was, and that yes, while it would have been great to climb, they were actually really happy that it had rained the whole time because they got to learn so much. And this completely changed how I structured the clinics at that point. It's like that saying, give a guy a fish and he eats for a day, and teach him how to fish and he eats for a lifetime. We still prioritize climbing in the clinics, and of course, fun is always in the syllabus, but we prioritize learning even more. My biggest teaching challenge is that I have just a couple of days to try to teach things that can literally save people's lives. And this is a huge body of knowledge that simply can't be taught in a few days, even a few years. I've also learned that some people understand things visually, some people scientifically, some people emotionally, and it takes some guesswork to figure out which way works for someone. Sometimes people don't want to ask a stupid question, they don't want to slow down the rest of the group, and you have to be really paying attention to people to be sure that you're teaching in a way that's making sense for them. This is one of the main reasons I bring in some of my most respected climbing friends to teach with me at the clinics, because people just hear things in different ways, and my way may not work for everyone. But the bottom line is that no matter how motivated your students are, how much they want to be there, or how many ways you think of to teach them, there is just no way to teach people everything you want them to know. There's too much information in the world nowadays. I've finally decided that the most important thing I can do in the time I have with people is simply to raise their belief in their own ability to figure things out on their own. Give them a few tools that they can use right now with where they're at. Show them how to find more when it's time and they need them. I know I can't teach someone how to tie 100 knots in a few hours, but I can teach them how to tie 3 knots and show them that they can get through 99% of any climbing scenario they'll ever be in with those 3 knots. Honestly, I really don't want to try to teach people how to do a specific thing, because you can learn anything in the world right now on YouTube or on Google. But it's through teaching a few useful, specific things that you can try to teach people how to evaluate a situation, figure out what's making it difficult or dangerous or impossible at the moment, and find their own way to get through it. What I call strategy. Because I know that if you take determination and you put that together with strategy, you can do anything. When you really, really care about what you do, you can feel a lot of pressure. And teaching can be very, very stressful. I'm sure sometimes you wonder if you're succeeding, if it's working, but what you all are doing really goes beyond a lesson plan or even a completed course for people. You're shaping people's lives. You're shaping their minds. You're taking their fear and turning it into confidence and giving them the tools to do anything they will ever want to do. I've made a career of doing impossible things, scaling mountain walls, flying off the summits. People think that's really exciting and glamorous. And every impossible thing I've done simply because I learned how to learn. And that's what you're teaching your students every day, every year. As an educator, you have the most important and I think the most glamorous job in the world. So thanks for what you do. Should I stay?
Yeah, stay. I've never been so intimidated to walk up on a stage with someone before. Wow, my hands are sweating. Hold on. So you talked about some great things, and that was a wonderful presentation. We would like for you to have this so that the next time you're dangling from a freezing cold cliff and you need a warm drink, let that warm you up and remember all the people here at the university whose lives you touched today and the message you shared. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Steph Davis, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we also need Steph to stick around for a second because all of our backpack winners are going to come up here. Thank you also, Steph, for helping us with the connection to Osprey, one of your sponsors, that donated the bags for our promotional event. You guys are ready to get your UCET on? All right, everybody, have a great day too. Remember to tweet one thing that you learned from Steph, and she's going to pick out the winner of our other backpack by lunchtime today. Grant, can I have a little Rush music? He's shaking his head. He's saying 1 minute. Yeah, can you stick around? There you go. Thanks, guys. Have a great day, too.